So, you can speak English, you're a native speaker. Good for you. Does that automatically mean you can teach English? Well, yes and no. Sure, you can follow a lesson plan somebody else made, or you can stand in the classroom and kill time. But can you do more than that? Well, if not, I can help. I'm Teacher David, and this is TESL for Newbies. So, before you head overseas, ask yourself the following question. Is TESL going to be your vacation or your vocation? If it's your vacation, then the bare minimum is needed. A native English speaker, you have to have a BA in any subject, even a BSc is fine. You have to have a health check and a police report. Obviously, a police report that shows you're not a criminal. However, if you intend TESL to be your vocation, your career, I would suggest that the bare minimum is insufficient. So in what follows, I will discuss some skills that I have obtained over the year, over the course of my career, and I hope these experiences of mine will stimulate some new ideas in you. Skill 1, public speaking. So as a teacher, you're going to have to stand in the front of a class teaching to students. You're going to be speaking publicly in front of others every single day you're a teacher. So you might be the kind of person, like I was, who was really nervous about speaking in front of other people. You want to be a teacher, but you just have anxiety every time you think about getting in front of others. Well, there's a few methods that I found helpful that I'd like to share. The first one is during university, every single time I was able to choose whether I wanted to write an essay, an exam, or do a presentation for one of my classes. I took philosophy, as I've mentioned before, so lots of classes had this option. I always chose the give presentation. And if I could, I combined an essay with the presentation. So that way, it was something like 80% of my grade was the presentation, 20% was the essay. And that helped me a lot. And I'll tell you, the first times I stood in front of a class of other philosophy students giving a presentation that I know they were going to do their best to argue against, I was literally shaking with fear. However, by the end of my school career, my academic career, I was perfectly comfortable. Took a long time. It was difficult, but I got there. Another thing that helped me during this same period of time was I joined a debate club and I started a philosophy club. So during the debate club, I had to argue in front of other people against other universities. And during the philosophy club, I was the one who made it. I was the one responsible for getting students to come out to the club, and I was the one to talk about the topics for that week. So that put a lot of pressure on me dealing in public with other people. Lastly, what I did was I started, after university, I started my own YouTube channel. The first YouTube channel I started, this one, it was a complete failure. It was years ago. I had no idea how to do it. I was standing in front of a whiteboard. My microphone was terrible. My camera was even worse. But I still put some videos out there. I still tried to speak, in a sense, publicly. So those are 3 examples of how you can improve your public speaking ability. Skill 2, organization. Now, the next thing, as a teacher, organization is very important. You need to make daily lessons. You need to make weekly lesson plans, and you need to make semester syllabuses, and you need to make that syllabus actually apply for the whole year. So you have 2 syllabuses each year. This is a lot of organization. You need to put time and effort into it. But you can develop that skill before you get into the classroom. One way that helped me is I wrote down any and all routines that I could think of. If I wanted to exercise, I made a routine. I made a plan. If I wanted to go on a hike for, say, 3 days, 5 days, I wrote down absolutely everything, made it clear what I was doing each day, the food I was eating each day, how many kilometers I would hike each day. I wrote out all of it. So that's one method. Another thing that you should do if you want to be organized and you want to show others that you're actually organized, if you have a deadline or you make a promise, keep them. If you're the kind of person who says, oh yeah, let's go camping, it'll be great, we'll do it this weekend, and then the night before or the morning of, you call up and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I didn't realize I couldn't make it today. That shows you're not organized, and it also shows that you're irresponsible a bit. Be more responsible. Be organized. And the last one is, for example, get a notebook. A notebook just like this is fine. There's a million kinds of notebooks, but write down. I use this one when I did my teacher's degree online, my online teacher's degree, and I wrote everything down in it every week. And then when I prepared for my practicum exams, I had a ton of information written down. That has helped me also, that skill during classes. Skill 3, grammar. Don't be that guy who knows nothing about grammar, who doesn't know a thing. As a teacher, as an ESL teacher especially, you're going to have to and be expected to be able to teach a grammar class more than likely. The best way you can do this, the best way to develop this skill is during university, spend some time studying grammar. I studied it through linguistics classes, and I also studied grammar in my TESL, my graduate degree in TESL. There was an option to take a full year-long grammar class. I took it. Another one is to keep studying after university. Keep yourself up to date. Keep the ideas in your mind. A great way to do this is go out and pick up a simple small book like this one, The Grammar Crammer. It's great. I was first introduced to an older version of this during university, and I've used some version of this in classes ever since. Also, because I'm interested in grammar, I actually have rows on my bookshelves that I use constantly and continuously to make sure my grammar isn't slipping. I want to be able to help my students as much as possible. I want to be able to answer any question they may have when it comes to grammar, because here in Taiwan especially, they're tested on grammar. They need to understand the rules and the application of grammar. Skill 4, writing. You will likely be asked to teach a writing class, at least paragraph writing at minimum. So you should be ready to do this. There's simple ways, fairly simple ways to be prepared. One is be well read. Read often, don't give up. Don't think listening to a podcast or listening to audiobooks is the same as reading. It's not. I've had this argument with teachers before. Decoding is a skill that you learn, which leads to fluency. If you don't read, if somebody does the reading for you, they're doing that decoding and turning it into fluency. You're not. It's a skill. You still get the information, of course, and that's very important. But if you're going to teach people to read, be a good reader. Also, know how to proofread. Show students proofread marks, mark their essay, don't just put check marks on them, mark their essays, and use proofreading comments. Understand what proofreading is. You can get a simple little paper like this. It's just a little fold-out thing. This one's on the AP. You can get MLA. You can get APA. There's lots of options out there. Learn a few of it. You don't have to memorize it all, but learn some, understand it, help your students by proofreading their essays and having them rewrite it. Also, find a book that you like. Most of the time, I'm teaching students at different levels. The great thing about this kind of book is it starts at a single paragraph and it goes to 3 paragraphs. This also has versions, sentences to paragraphs, 3 paragraphs to 5 paragraph essays. Now, just as a note, these books I've been showing you, I don't get any money for showing them to you. I'm just telling you books I've used. I'm showing you materials I've used in my teaching career. And Skill 5, teachable hobbies. I strongly suggest to you, if you're going overseas to teach, whether it be in elementary school or a cram school, have a couple hobbies. Something that's a hobby that you can teach to others. Because you likely, more often than not, you're going to be asked to teach either an after-school club or a summer camp, especially if you're working at a cram school. Now, the great thing is, if you're at a cram school, they'll ask you to come up with the lesson plan. This sounds like extra work, but what it actually does, it allows you to choose the subject you want, design it the way you want to design it, and then teach it in that way. It becomes your complete camp, which is great. I've done that with woodworking. I've done that with games like board games. I've done that with camping skills, essentially bushcraft skills, but made easy, of course, for camp, for children. And so what you could do is, for example, I suggest learn a sport or learn some kind of extracurricular topic, such as debate, board games, drama, and use those possibly as an after-school club. For me, I've taught chess club. All I did, picked myself up a pretty inexpensive board, got some books, used some online programs, made sure I learned as much as I could, and I teach chess. And I've been doing it for years, and it's a great way to interact with students in a non-academic way. Basically, it's just fun. Skill 6, taboos. This is the last skill that I'm going to talk about for today. What I want you to think about is, remember, as I mentioned in the past, the local norms and laws, although mostly the same, there's going to be some differences. So you need to think about where you're heading. Try to understand those norms, the laws, before you get there. There'll be a ton of YouTube videos on your destination, undoubtedly, with other ESL teachers in that place telling you about situations they've had to deal with. Find out about them. Find out about the history of where you're going. It's very easy to make some kind of taboo mistakes because you're unfamiliar with the history of the country you're going to. As I said, YouTube videos are great for this, other teachers sharing their experiences. Or what I did when I came to Taiwan, I simply bought a book on the history of Taiwan, read through, I look at certain aspects of it from time to time. It helps me out a lot. And it actually helps me in the classroom when we're talking about historical aspects of Taiwanese culture or Taiwanese just general history of people who've come here, different countries invading, the native peoples here. It's very helpful to have. And students, they genuinely respect you and are impressed by the effort you put in to know about their country. Don't be lazy. Figure it out a bit. Okay, so coming up next week, I'm going to talk about, in the same vein as this week, but instead of how to educate yourself in various ways, I'm going to tell you how to practically educate yourself or suggest some practical experiences that you can utilize in an effort to get ready for teaching overseas. That way, when you're overseas, it won't be the first time that you've ever been in charge of a class, or at least even a single student. You have some experience, and you can get that experience in surprisingly varied ways. Okay, until next week, 2 weeks from now. I'll see you then. Bye for now.